One, two, one, two, one, two, one, two. 5-4, 5-4, 5-4. 1-2, 1-2, 1-2. Can you hear me? Status Coup. Jordan. Live. Haven't been live for a while. Happy to be back. 222. Please send out now, Colin. Please send out now. I just launched. We'll wait for the masses to trickle in right here. Status Coup. Hope everybody's having a good day. Sorry I'm a little late. My nephew was FaceTiming me. He's very upset because I ordered him a WWE action ring arena, but he got the arena but hasn't gotten the wrestler action figures yet. So he's been calling me 5 times a day to ask me when the wrestlers are coming. So that was fun. 222, waiting for some more folks to trickle in here. Smash the like button right there. Smash, smash, smash the like button. The more people that see this live stream, the better. I don't see anybody in the chat yet. I don't know why the chat has been delayed the last few days. It seems like it takes several minutes for the chat to get started. But I will assume there's people watching because it says 70 people watching. And let me retweet on the Twitter. 222, so people see we're live. Hold on, farewell. I've come to see you go. It's been a busy couple days, folks. Tina Desiree Berg kindly filled in while I've been working on an investigative piece with Jen. We are really looking forward to releasing this investigative story. I don't even know how to describe it other than corrupt, so stay tuned for that. But I've been working night and day on that story, as well as some follow-up reporting on Amazon. If you've been following, I broke recently a story about an Amazon worker named Pashan Brown, a 38-year-old woman who died recently out of nowhere. She was working in Amazon's testing center for months, COVID testing center, for months. And for some reason, they had her an untrained doctor, not a trained doctor, not a trained medical person, not a trained anything. For some reason, they had her testing coworkers. And she suddenly died recently at the age of 38. She had a headache one night, and the next morning, after getting breakfast for her daughter, her still head hurt, went back down to sleep, and she died. She never woke up. So I've been doing some follow-up reporting on that, and I've had, since we broke that story last week, I've had other Amazon workers reaching out to me. So we'll definitely get into that at some point. I want to start, before I get to the topics, which are the Biden and Pelosi and the Democrats moonwalking away from the totally inadequate crumbs that they were already offering, and smash that like button. Got 120 people watching, 83 likes. So the more people that press like, the more people that will see this live stream. I want to address what YouTube is doing. I didn't put it in the headline because, frankly, if you dare criticize YouTube, you know what's coming after that. So I'd like to address what's been going on with YouTube, because it's, to me, extremely dangerous to the idea of a democracy. To me, it's extremely dangerous just to news and information. To me, it's extremely dangerous, and to me, reminiscent of how actual fascism develops. One of the precursors to fascism is censorship. And if you are living under a rock, and they might demonetize us for talking about this, thus far, our channel has not been demonetized, but I keep looking at my email, just waiting, because at this point, unfortunately, I don't really question if. I'm just waiting for when, based on what I've seen YouTube is doing. But to me, what is extremely dangerous, and if you don't know what I'm talking about, yesterday, and I think today also, they started demonetizing several channels. They demonetized Jamal Thomas's channel, the Progressive Soapbox. I was actually going to have Jamal on today to interview him live, but unfortunately, he's got, something going on with his stomach, so we're going to do it tomorrow. I'm going to have him on live to discuss his channel being demonetized. Thank you for the super chat, Leslie, while we still can get super chats. Yes, please. Super chats are super needed right now. So Jamal's channel was demonetized. I know that Ford Fisher, who's a great journalist who does a lot of in-the-field reporting like we do. He's been all over the country doing great reporting. He was there at the Capitol on January 6th. His channel was randomly demonetized. Some channels I'm not fond of, like Convo Couch, Nico House, and others were demonetized. So there were channels that I greatly respect that were demonetized. There were channels that I don't have a lot of respect for, but they also were demonetized. And to be honest with you, I see some comments. Jordan, watch what you say. You don't want to get demonetized. We can't operate in, watch what you say. I mean, I'm already not putting certain things in the headline. Graham Elwood, too. Thank you. I forgot Graham Elwood was wrongly demonetized. Great friend of the show. So I'm going to talk about this because I'm not going to be muzzled. And if it means we're going to be demonetized, then we'll just have to do what we always do and figure it out as we go. Jen and I had a call yesterday with the tech team that we've been working on to completely redo our website and start the process of redoing our website. Thank you, Robert. $5 in the super chat. Keep those super chats coming. Honestly, we have to operate at this point like we're going to be demonetized. I'm hoping we're not, but based on everything I'm seeing, I'm expecting the worst. So please support us if you can. Any super chats help. We also have a GoFundMe. I'll put that in the link. Jen is still sick, so it's just me right now in the super chat. It's just me hosting and doing the super chat today, so I'll try to keep up with your super chats. Let me text Sam. Sam, I'm live. I am live if you can help out at all. So I want to address this because even the channels that I don't have a lot of respect for, frankly, journalistically, and I think have been misleading their audiences. I think that, this idea that YouTube is a private platform, and when we say YouTube, we're talking about Google. The idea that they're a private platform and they could do whatever they want is no longer tenable. And frankly, it wasn't tenable in the first place. You cannot be one of the sole gatekeepers to news and information, particularly for millennials, for the younger generation. You cannot be the gatekeeper to that information. You cannot be basically 80%, maybe 75, 80% of where people get their news, where people get their pop culture, their sports entertainment, their history knowledge, their all the different categories of YouTube. You cannot keep those super chats coming. I might miss some, but I'll try to keep up with them. Thank you. Everything is fine. $4.99. Keep doing your thing. You are appreciated. Thomas, I'll double membership if you get demonetized. Thank you so much. Yes, please become a Status Coup member. Super important. We really need it in the event that we might be demonetized. We're at 1,816 members. So please sign up, statuscoup.com/join. Become a member for as low as $5 a month. At this point, it's not just growing the business. It's making sure the business can survive. If we're demonetized, that's It's a good 30-40% of our revenue. It would really, really hurt us greatly. So if you can become a member, you could do it for as low as $5 a month. I put the link right in there. So why this is so dangerous and why they can't just do whatever they want because they're a private platform is because the bottom line is, as a society, right, we have always had a choice on what news we will consume. In China and other countries, they don't really have a choice. They're fed state-run media and propaganda, specifically in China. But in America, at some point, years ago, we all had a choice on what news we could consume. And many people, kind of had a little, they sampled from a buffet table. Maybe their go-to was CNN or MSNBC, but they also turned Fox on to see what the, right-wing people were talking about. And then as they got disillusioned with the corporate media, they started experimenting with alternative and independent sources. But the point of an actual democracy is to have a choice of where you get your news and information. And Silicon Valley, under the guise of trying to eliminate extremism and disinformation, has now chosen to try and eliminate the very platforms that, frankly, are in large part responsible for people starting to support things like Medicare for All more, supporting a Green New Deal, supporting banning fracking, supporting Black Lives Matter, supporting more and more talk of a general strike, supporting ending the endless wars. As you see these progressive policies increase in popularity on the left and more Republicans even starting to support these, that's not happening because CNN and MSNBC and the Washington Post and the New York Times and all of those corporate outlets are, really telling their viewers and readers and subscribers the truth on universal health care, these destructive wars, fracking, private prisons, droning. I could go on. So there is a direct correlation here. The progressive agenda, we might have not seized power yet, but we are starting to seize minds. And I know that's not enough for everybody. We're tired of moving the Overton window. We want to seize power. I get it. However, it's not a coincidence that all of these channels, and even some channels that, frankly, I have no respect for, they willfully mislead their audiences. It's not a coincidence that YouTube is eliminating channels that have poo-pooed Russiagate and said, we're not going to go along with the Russiagate narrative because there's no evidence that's been provided. That people who call out the fact that we're now in Afghanistan for 20 years. The people who advocate and speak with organizers and labor union representatives about potential general strikes. The people that are critical of the crumbs that the Democratic Party is advocating for you. The people that have been on the ground, like us, on Black Lives Matter and the police terrorism, long before George Floyd was even a name. We were out there. This is not about, purging YouTube and Facebook and all these platforms of right-wing extremism. This is about purging alternative information, not alternative facts. Not all of us, but most of the channels being demonetized actually come with facts, come with evidence, come with information backed up by data and evidence. This is about purging anti-corporate, anti-capitalist, anti-war voices. That's it. That's what this is about. I'm not against accountability for hosts or networks that do massive disinformation that willfully mislead their audience, that willfully stoke their audiences. But accountability is different than censorship. Yesterday I tweeted out, I'm a human being. Sometimes I say things in the heat of moment. Sometimes I just say things that I'm wrong. And you just got to apologize when you're wrong and own up to it. So I tweeted out, listen, on the day of the Capitol attack, I tweeted out that all of these channels that were egging this on and stoking this should be taken off the air. With time to think about that, seeing the censorship machete that YouTube is now taking, that Facebook is taking, I tweeted out yesterday, I regret this tweet. Not because I don't think some hosts and some channels should have accountability, but because unless you are directly calling for violence, which is a very specific thing, we live technically, even though we don't live in a democracy, we're supposed to, we live in a society where people are free to spew conspiracies. People are free to give their alternative views on things. The accountability can come with lawsuits. Just before I got on air, Fox News was just sued by Dominion, the voting machine company. That's called accountability. They could be held accountable by pressuring advertisers not to advertise with these networks. So there are ways to hold platforms, hosts, whomever that are pushing misinformation accountable. But that's not the same thing as just arbitrarily, willy-nilly demonetizing them or removing them. Those are two separate things. One example that comes to mind, Ford Fisher, and I apologize I don't have it in front of me, but Ford Fisher, who I think is a great journalist, he's been all over the country. Other than Status Coup, he's one of the only people I know in the independent space that is out there constantly, including during a deadly pandemic. YouTube, like our channel, they took down our live stream from the Capitol Hill attacks. John Farina's brave footage that was featured on CNN and MSNBC and ABC, NBC, CBS, BBC, The Guardian, Showtime, other global stations, Japan, Australia. That footage shot by John, that he risked his life and, by the way, hurt his ribs for several weeks after, that was taken down our live stream, taken down our channel, claiming that it's violated spam. It violated YouTube's spam policy. And smash that like button. We got 420 people watching, so put that in your pipe and smoke it. Smash that like button. More people that press like, the more people that will see this. Please leave some super chats, because frankly, I'm not wishing this into existence, but I'm not optimistic that we will remain monetized. I hope we are, but I'm not optimistic at this point. But they took down our footage from the Capitol Hill attacks. They took down Ford's footage from the Capitol attacks. They demonetized Ford's footage. And what they said in, I guess, the explanation for why they demonetized Ford's channel was he didn't provide the proper context. He didn't provide the proper context in his videos. So he only provided by covering the Capitol Hill attacks, by covering other right-wing rallies, by interviewing right-wingers, pushing out their false beliefs about the election being rigged, hundreds of thousands of votes being illegally stolen from Trump and given to Biden, which I've been on the record since the election. That didn't happen. Channels claiming they're just pushing election integrity while telling you the election was stolen are just misleading you. I still stand by that. I mean, you know who I'm talking about. They were misleading you. They could dress it up as election integrity. Election integrity and covering election integrity is great. Pushing claims, not reporting, claims that you have evidence or the election was clearly stolen and blah, blah, blah. That's not reporting. That's just pushing your fact-free, evidence-free claims, not reporting. But with that said, I was wrong. I don't think Convo Couch should be deplatformed for pushing those claims. I don't think other channels should be deplatformed for pushing those claims. Frankly, if they want to push unfounded claims and people want to watch that, that's America. That's fine. As long as they're not calling for violence, which I don't watch their channel enough, I benefit of the doubt that they weren't calling for people to storm the Capitol and be violent, then they have a right to exist. And when YouTube, and thank you for the super chats, when YouTube, Gina Gal, hang in there, Jordan, Status Coup, $5. We're trying. Jen has been working while still sick with COVID. A lot of people think like because I'm not live, I'm on some vacation. Ask my wife who's in the live chat. I've been working usually from 8 in the morning to 10 at night on investigative stories, which require me on the phone with sources, which require me going through documents, which require me writing, which require a lot of things that you don't see. So I've been working very hard, and thankfully we've had Tina to fill in for me. Chris, $5. Just got unemployment approved. Here's my support. By the way, Zuckerberg has said privately to friends he wants to be an actual emperor like the Romans. Doesn't surprise me. Eugene Debs, $10. No one is perfect, pal. Keep up the good work. Why no student debt cancellation? Biden is a corporate tool. When will the war in Iran start? Hold that thought. I'm going to get to Biden and Pelosi soon. But the bottom line is, this platform is called YouTube, not MeTube. So when YouTube sends out just no warning, just totally demonetizes your platform, which, forward. Luckily for us, YouTube revenue, it's an important part of our business. It's not the sole part of our business. If suddenly we were unable to have members, we'd be out of business. That's why we tried to grow this through small dollar memberships. You could become a member for as low as $5 a month. Frankly, at this point, I'm begging you, sign up if you got $5 a month. If you don't, you don't. We understand if you can't afford it. If you can't afford it, we're not going to the casino. We're trying to fund in the field investigative reporting. It's expensive. It's very expensive. And by the way, in the coming days, I will have an announcement on something we plan on doing in terms of expanding Status Coup. I'm not going to announce it today because need to, finish one or two things related to it. But I will have an announcement. Oh, is my mother here? I won't curse. Hi, Mama Coup. My wonderful mother, Lori Sheridan. Be nice. So the bottom line is, YouTube doesn't get to decide what is the appropriate context for independent journalists to give in videos. And by the way, Ford Fisher, who's a great journalist, has put his health at risk, put his body at risk all over this country, from MAGA rallies to Proud Boy rallies to QAnon rallies to the whole nine, because he thinks, just like we think, it's important to show the growing conspiracy and white supremacist explosion in this country. Not showing it and just pretending it doesn't exist. What does that do? What does that do? Pretending it doesn't exist. So YouTube and Silicon Valley don't get to decide what's the proper context, i.e., the proper topics that you could cover, the proper guests that you could speak to, the proper counter information you provide. No, that's not for Mark Zuckerberg to. It's not for Mark Zuckerberg to decide. It's not for Jack Dorsey to decide. It's not for Google's chat to decide. A Google CEO to decide. This is for viewers to decide. That doesn't mean, to be clear, that doesn't mean that there aren't mechanisms to go after people that are inciting violence on these platforms, people that are pushing misinformation. There's nothing stopping the FBI, Homeland Security, whomever, who monitors social media, way over the top from, going after a host who is calling for viewers to go to the Capitol and fight. There's nothing stopping companies or whatever to sue YouTube hosts if they feel they are spewing misinformation. There's nothing stopping anybody. Unfortunately, it gets abused in this country from suing people. There's nothing stopping if somebody watching thinks that I'm misleading. If I'm misleading, which I wasn't, I've said from day one, the election wasn't stolen. We certainly have election fraud in this country. In this general election, the election wasn't stolen. Biden won. Whether we like it or not, he won. That's that. I mean, I don't know what else to say. There's no evidence of widespread election fraud. But YouTube is not the editor of millions of channels. YouTube doesn't get to decide if I am adding the proper context, i.e., what that really means, the appropriate topics, the appropriate guests, staying within the categories that we say you could describe. Here's another perfect example. Graham Elwood, one of the nicest guys you could find. He might not be a reporter in the field, but he works hard. I think he does 5 or 6 live streams a week. He's built a channel. I don't know what he has. I think like 70,000 subscribers. It's hard work to build a channel. Jen and I have been working 6-7 days a week for 3 years to build this. We just passed 109,000 subscribers, by the way. But Graham Elwood, I guess he did a segment on JFK's assassination, and all of a sudden he's demonetized? Well, JFK's assassination is one of the most commonly discussed scandals in American history. There's a gazillion books about it. There's a gazillion documentaries about it. There's a whole industry on JFK's assassination. By the way, just me saying the words JFK assassination probably means this video is going to be demonetized, or this channel will be demonetized. That's not a democracy. Silicon Valley does not have the right. I don't care if it's a private platform. You do not have the right to dictate what is the acceptable topics, what is not the acceptable topics. And the truth is, and I've seen YouTube's explanations when they took down our live videos, historic footage that John Farina shot for us at the Capitol. I'm not exaggerating. He put his life on the line. When you are in those situations, how would he know, or if I was there, which I wasn't, how do you know if shots are going to be fired any minute when you have a mob storming the Capitol? How do you know if shots are not going to start firing at any minute? There were armed militiamen. Who is Google and YouTube? When they took down our historic footage, they said, this is advancing false claims of election fraud. They said years ago, the banks, if they're too big to fail, they must be taken down. Well, if your algorithm is too stupid or too incompetent or intentionally designed not to distinguish between mobs that are actually storming the Capitol to stop an election from being certified, if YouTube and Facebook, if their technology, their algorithms, cannot tell the difference between, loony QAnon channels who are part of this storming of the Capitol, which, by the way, is insurrection. These channels that are minimizing it, it's just a few knuckleheads out there. Yeah, tell that to the 5 people who died. You fucking idiots. Excuse me, Mom. Sorry I cursed. If you can't distinguish between the people involved in the mob and the channels that are doing, say it with me, news coverage, then you are too stupid to exist and too big to be a private company. You need to be publicly regulated. You know, life is short. I'm not going to stay away from certain topics for fear of Big Brother. And you want to know something? Tonight or tomorrow morning, I might be the next to get an email, channel demonetized, which would be horrendous for us. Because you should understand, it's not just that they demonetize the channels, making super chats not possible, making no way you could make money on videos. With the demonetization, with that demonetization, it further suppresses your channel. So you don't you show up less in people's feeds. You show basically, we were hidden in a cave for a very long time. We're still basically hidden. They do that more. So it's not just the fact that you lose the ability to make money, you lose the ability to build your audience. So to me, you know, I understand that the corporate media is fixated on Marjorie Taylor Greene, a QAnon nut, who's now a congressperson, who said 9/11 didn't really happen, who said Parkland was, you know, a false flag and all these things. She's a nut. I get it. I understand they want to cover that all day, every day now, instead of the fact that the Democratic Party is already moonwalking on their promises to people in Georgia. The Democratic Party is currently negotiating against itself to water down badly needed relief, which I'm going to get to after this. But I don't know. I kind of think it's a big deal when Silicon Valley is literally just purging alternative voices, alternative thoughts. You ever read the book 1984? If you haven't and you have time, read it, because that's what this is. And you want to know who is hurt the most by all of this in this channel's case? Because again, at this moment, let me check, because who knows? At this moment, we are still monetized. But you want to, and by the way, if you came late, I was going to have Jamal Thomas on today, but a little bit before we went live, he's got a stomach issue, so I'm going to have him on tomorrow. His channel was demonetized, so we're going to have him on to talk about this. I want to have Graham on at some point. So at the end of the day, Ford as well. At the end of the day, the fact that the media has no concerns about this at all shows you they are not. This is CNN, MSNBC, New York Times, Washington Post. They're not journalists. They are vehicles for advertisers. And when YouTube puts in its little takedown notices, this is harmful content for our viewers, and it's also harmful to our advertisers. Just take away harmful to our viewers, because it ain't about the viewers, and harm to our users. The key phrase is, this is harmful to our advertisers, because that's what all of this is about. And we should just drop the facade that YouTube is YouTube. It's not YouTube anymore. It's FuTube. So you could say, by the way, welcome new Status Coup member, Eric. Please, please be like Eric. We need a huge surge of people to sign up as members, particularly with such a risk of us being demonetized. So please, please, if you can, sign up for as low as $5 a month. We still wait. Jen's still a little, very under the weather, so we're tentatively going to do our members call next week. We're right now at 1,817 members. But I want to say, this is not it. When news and information platforms are openly being twisted and mangled into a very nice sanitized sandwich for corporate advertisers, that's no longer news and information. That is state-run fascism. And there's different forms of fascism. There's what we saw in the Holocaust, and then there's lower forms of fascism. But if you Google and do the research on what are the precursors to fascism, one of the precursors to fascism is censorship. And that's what we're seeing right now. So I'm not saying this is the technical or technocratic Holocaust. But when the government allows Silicon Valley to basically pick and choose winners. I've been off for a week, so I didn't get into this GameStop stuff. But everybody's been talking about the manipulation of Wall Street that is exposed through this GameStop story. And these Reddit users fighting back and using, giving the Wall Street short sellers a taste of their own medicine. Well, guess what? That same manipulation that has been exposed by the Redditors, now that CNBC is freaking out now that poor people and working class people are fighting back, that same manipulation and rigged system is right here on YouTube. Because YouTube is using its algorithm to manipulate the information war, to flood your feed with CNN, with MSNBC, which used to get, a couple thousand views per video. Now they're getting hundreds of thousands of views. What changed? Did people suddenly fall in love with Wolf Blitzer and Morning Joe? Or are people's feeds being flooded with that kind of content while channels like this, who on shoestring budgets go to Flint 17 times to tell you, yeah, the water's still poison. 7 years later, hey, here's the government officials that caused this and then covered it up, who go to show you the fights on the ground against pipelines, who cover Black Lives Matter long before George Floyd became a national historic moment, who went to Louisville to cover the murder of Breonna Taylor, who went to Ohio and Detroit to cover 15,000 General Motors workers being laid off. I didn't see any corporate outlets there. Frankly, I didn't see any independent outlets there. Who went to Seattle to cover the economic terrorism of Amazon, who Jeff Bezos just stepped down. I ain't taking credit for it, but it's a good day. There's a whole long extra list of stories we've done on a shoestring budget. I appreciate every single person who has signed up as a member, but let me tell you something. We're not at 10,000 paid members. We are still, I don't want to say struggling, but we're still scratching quarters together to do this. It's very expensive. When people complain, stop asking for money. Well, if you want to provide me access to your money tree in your backyard so that we could fund in the field trips, marketing, advertising, to pay for Jen, to pay for Colin, to pay for John, to pay, we pay Tina for her work. I need to eat. To pay for our broadcasting costs, it's costing $700 to $1,000 a month just to use our live view, which we use. What do you think I just shit out money? So I'm going to keep talking about this. I'm going to have Jamal on tomorrow. I'm going to ask Graham to come on. Even channels that I don't have a lot of respect for, I don't think they should be demonetized unless there's a process. You don't just take away people's ability to earn a living because the gods of YouTube have decided they're not having, their issues are too controversial for our advertisers. What the fuck is this? Your issue are the controversial topics? It's not up to us what is happening in the news. It's not up to us. It's not up to us whether people are protesting out there reasonably or if there are a bunch of lunatics out there. We don't dictate what happens out across the country. We cover it. That's the difference. You want to know something? Hopefully you record this video. It's live on Twitter now. Who knows if YouTube's going to take it down? I could tell you, folks, I remember it crystally clear, and then I want to move on to the Democrats and Joe Biden. Keep smashing that like button. We got 520 people watching. Share this live stream. Keep those super chats coming. And please, please, I am not beyond begging. Sign up if you haven't. statuscoup.com/join. statuscoup.com/join. Just got another one. Welcome as a new member, Carrie. So we're now at 1,818. 1,818. By the way, if you don't know, when you sign up as a member, you get access to our Discord, which is a lot of fun. We're going to have a members call. We're pushing for next week. Frankly, Jen has been dealing with a horrible COVID illness. Now for 3 months, she's been dealing with this. So obviously, you know, some days we think we could do the members call, but she's not feeling well. We obviously want her on the members call. We also want to have John, our freelance cameraman, on the members call, so he could answer your questions about his great footage from the Capitol Hill attacks. So we are going to do it. We're hoping next week. And I'm going to post some other videos just for members. But the last thing I'll say on this, and I said this when I was on Jimmy. I said this, I think, yesterday, who was with Lee Camp, who had me on. Thank you, Carrie, $20. Have Eleanor Goldfield on. Email me, info@statuscoup.com. info@statuscoup.com, so I don't forget. Gino, $4.99. I support Status Coup, not the status quo. Thank you very much. Last thing I'll say about this, we could protest our politicians till we're blue in the face. We could protest Nancy Pelosi outside of her office. The Sunrise Movement did that. We could protest corporate America. Great. All of those things are good. But people, if you don't start protesting CNN, if you don't start protesting YouTube, Facebook, Twitch, owned by Amazon, you name it, Google, if you allow the Silicon Valley gods, who, by the way, buy off the politicians just like the banks do, just like the fossil fuel companies do, just like Big Pharma does, just like big real estate does, just like the military-industrial complex does. Silicon Valley is one of the biggest contributors to the Democratic Party in particular. If you allow them to just do this in broad daylight, very comfortably, not to be challenged, if you don't shame them, I'm not saying, hey, go out during a deadly pandemic with now 2 variants going around and, you know, we need 20,000 people outside Google's headquarters. You know, there's a reality right now. There's a pandemic. But if there is not a pressure campaign, it doesn't matter whether you protest the politicians. It doesn't matter whether you protest the corporations. It doesn't matter how much organizing you do, because the information war, if it is lost, if we are muzzled, when I say we, I'm talking independent media. I'm not even just talking about progressive media. I'm just talking about independent voices, non-corporate media. If we're muzzled, which is what's going on, then the status quo will remain. I don't want to be cheesy, folks. The reason we named this Status Coup, the reason we even launched this, was because Jen and I felt that you are not going to get progressive change in this country. You're not even going to get any crumbs of justice if the corporate media status quo is not countered. Are we big enough yet to do that all on our own? No, but we're working night and day to do it. We're working night and day to get topics that the corporate media wouldn't touch with a 10-foot pole to break through. We've done it basically with 2.5 people. No disrespect to Colin. We love him. He's not half a person, but he's not, he has a full-time job. He does this for us in his spare time, and he does a great job. John, too. But the bottom line is, and I say bottom line again, I say that a lot. At the end of the day, I say that a lot, too. If you don't shame and apply pressure to Google, who owns YouTube, to Twitter, to Facebook, then we're not going to have any progressive change in this country. We might elect politicians, but the bottom line is these platforms are running the country now. They control the politicians, and they're controlling the information. And you're not expanding the progressive movement. You're not getting to a general strike if you cannot get the truth and the information to more people. You're not half a person, Colin. I didn't mean it that way. I love you. Colin's been with me since day one, by the way, even before Status Coup. He's awesome. You are not weak. If we can't get true information, not just to progressives, but to people that we could bring into our tent. And there are people that are, if they were provided the real information, the truth about capitalism, corporate America, the wars, the fossil fuckers, all of them, we could get them to our side, then you're not going to have a successful general strike. You're not going to get a Medicare for all in this country. You're not going to get a Green New Deal in this country. You're not going to peel back these wars in this country. We're going to have the perpetual hamster wheel of lesser two evils and take the shit sandwich that I've given you, which the Democrats are doing now. That's what we're going to have. So organize and protest. I'm not telling you go outside during the pandemic, but folks, you got to move the media and Silicon Valley up your priority list. It's more important to protest them right now than Joe Biden and corporate America, because they're all one and the same. I'm not. By the way, to be clear, I'm not talking about violence. Don't send shit in the mail to Google that could explode. We are not talking about that. I condemn any violence. Period. So does Jen. But making people uncomfortable is not the same thing as violence, and these people should be made uncomfortable. So we'll talk about this more as the days and the weeks go on. For now, this channel is monetized. I don't know how long that's going to last, so please support us. Super chats, and most importantly, sign up as a Status Coup member. If you don't have $5 a month, I get it. You know, everybody's struggling right now. If you have $5 a month, which comes down to 16 cents a day, this is what you're funding. And I'm going to play this real quick, not just to remind you what you're funding, but to set up the next segment. $5 a month helps do this. Millions and millions of people have been laid off. Millions more have had their hours cut. We're kind of living in a quiet, silent depression. What do you call 45 million people filing for unemployment?
$1,200 in 3 months makes no sense. Makes absolutely no sense.
Everybody should be paying attention to what's going on, because this is happening in every county, not just Louisville, Kentucky. And that's why the world is like, wait a minute, enough's enough.
And one thing I do know is if you're not sitting at the table, you are on the menu. And it seems like we continue to be on the menu.
I don't want to have to lose everything that we worked really hard for. We've been struggling for 5 years, and then we finally got everything together, and it just instantly went away.
Literally driving across the country during the pandemic, talking to people, finding out what's going on.
There are people such as yourself and other people that are telling the true story of what is happening.
All of these black people have been assassinated by police in this city, and none of them have been brought to justice.
People don't really care about those things in places where, you know, we're not New York, we're not Chicago, we're not Minneapolis, we're Louisville, Kentucky.
If somebody calls you screaming for help in 911, they never treated her. They never came to her apartment, nothing.
Vote, and do what's right in your heart, because change comes from within. So as long as your heart is pure and you're doing what's right, that's what matters.
So why I played that video was because that was our COVID economic depression tour. And since then, things have gotten 10 times worse for the masses. And by the way, we were able to do that tour. We went Pennsylvania, Ohio, Michigan, Louisville. We hit 4 states for, I think, a week and a half. We also covered not just the economic depression, but we spoke with Breonna Taylor's aunt and covered protests on the ground in Louisville after Breonna Taylor was killed. What you just saw, which, thanks to you, we were able to fund, it has gotten 10 times worse since then, economically. That couple that said, I don't know what we're going to do, couples like that went, I think, 6 months. July, the $600 a week unemployment ended. They didn't start over until, I think, end of December with the $300 extra unemployment and a kick in the ass, i.e. $600 check, which is a joke. We are in a borderline economic depression. There are lines for blocks and blocks and blocks all over this country for families who were working to get food. Thank you for the super chat. Marianne Cummings, $27. Appreciate the hell out of you guys. I'm a member, but here's a few more. Thank you. Appreciate it, Anne Marie. Caddy Wax, $50. Thank you, Caddy Wax. Keep up the great work, Jordan. Hope this helps. Certainly does. Afromaniac, $20. Glad you were able to admit your tweet came off wrong. Most wouldn't. I understand what you meant, but people will always search for a thing to attack people they dislike and fear. Hey, as a person, you just got to own up when you're wrong and move on. I've worked for people that have a real, allergy to admitting when they're wrong. Not mentioning any names. Cenk Uygur. So yeah, when you're wrong, and I was wrong. So I appreciate the super chat. Keep those super chats coming. Let me make sure I didn't miss any. And by the way, I want to thank GoFundMe too. Just got a couple donations. Whoa, just passed $138,000. Seth Peterson, $40. Terrell, $30. Anonymous, $10. Terrence, $27. Anonymous, $10. And as I always have to say with the disclaimer, I wish we had $138,000 in the bank. That would make our situation a lot better. We of course don't. This GoFundMe is, I think, now 2.5 years old. This is the money we have cumulatively raised. We've spent probably 75% of it on reporting, on equipment, marketing, all the things that a startup needs, but most importantly, all the costs of traveling and covering things in the field. So we greatly, greatly appreciate the continuing donations to GoFundMe, along with your super chats. But why I played that video, in addition to trying to, urge you to sign up as a member, was we have a bunch of millionaires in Washington, D.C., Republicans and Democrats. And welcome new Status Coup member Brent. Welcome new Status Coup member Paul. Woo! 1,823 Status Coup members. Keep signing up. We have a bunch of millionaires, Republicans and Democrats, but the Democrats have the White House, the Senate, and the House right now, who seem to not understand the term urgency, who seem to be grossly disconnected from what actual working people are experiencing right now. When, Biden's out there on the Georgia campaign trail, you elect Warnock, what was his, Warnock and Ossoff, you're getting a $2,000 check right out the door, which then becomes a $1,400 check on top of the $600 down payment. And oh, wait, now we're going to try means test it because we don't want the wealthy getting the money, which is a bullshit and a half statement. A one-time $2,000 check was already a slap in the face, folks. That's not enough during an economic depression. Canada's giving its citizens $2,000 a month. Australia, France, the UK, other countries that are far less wealthy than us are giving our citizens $2,000 a month, $3,000 a month, or are paying for payrolls so their citizens aren't plunged onto unemployment. It was already a slap in the face to say we're going to give you a one-time $2,000 check. But now the Democratic Party is coming out with the bullshit. Oh, no, we meant a $600, we already gave you the $600 check, which might pay for like half of one of your 25 bills sitting on your kitchen table. Now we're going to give you a $1,400 check, which if you add $1,400 to $600 equals $2,000. But wait, the $1,400, because we have to negotiate against ourselves, even when we have the House, the Senate, and the presidency, we have to negotiate against ourselves because we're not actually representing the people. We have to answer to our Wall Street donors. We have to answer to Big Pharma, Big Real Estate, Silicon Valley, the military-industrial complex. So, yeah, let's means test it. Let's, instead of capping it at $75,000 an individual, which, by the way, they're looking at individuals' tax returns from 2019, not 2020. So you might be disqualifying people now under $75,000 who were making $75,000 in 2019 before they lost their job in COVID and are now on long bread lines. And then Speaker Pelosi, Donald Trump's not in office anymore, so I don't want to fucking hear it about Donald Trump. Joe Biden is the president. Pelosi's the speaker. Schumer is the Senate Majority Leader. Then Nancy Pelosi has the gall to come out today and say this shit.
To more fully address official gaps in the medical supply chain, and the list goes on. We want to save lives and save livelihoods. It's going to cost some money to do so, but it is a good investment. And don't take it from us, whether you're talking about the chairman of the Fed, the secretary of the Treasury, Mark Zandi, other economists have said, even the governor of West Virginia has said, go big rather than go small. And that's what we have to do. It is a reasonable plan. It meets the needs. It is not excessive. It is coronavirus-centric. It is in a timely fashion. And that's where we have to go if we are going to, again, put vaccine in people's arms, children in school, money in people's pockets, and workers back in their jobs. So it's pretty exciting what he's put there. And what we did at the end of December, plus this, is approximately what we have been advocating in the HEROES Act all along, 3.2. This comes up to nearly $3 trillion. But that's what it needs. So for the Republican senators to come in at $600 billion, 1/3, well, what is it? Are we going to feed fewer children? Are we going to inoculate fewer people? Are we going to, how do you cut that? I think they have not respected our heroes by supporting state and local government. These are the people who are on the first line, whether it's healthcare workers, police and fire, first responders of any kind, sanitation, transportation, food workers, our teachers, our teachers, our teachers, our schools. We have to invest in.
I don't even know where to begin. I don't even know where to begin. First of all, I recall, I don't know if you guys recall this. I kind of recall Nancy Pelosi in October. Let me actually just find the clip. Nancy Pelosi snaps at reporter asking about 1.8 trillion COVID offer. So, in October, when Trump, who's vile, I think should be impeached, I think he should be convicted, frankly, separate, I think he should probably be prosecuted for money laundering, financial fraud, and a whole host of other things. So let's just put that to the side. Trump's horrible. We agree. Good. When Trump and Steve Mnuchin offered $1.8 trillion in October with $400 a week unemployment, not the $600, but $400 a week, with another $1,200 check, with money to states and cities, not enough, but something, with money for vaccine distribution, not enough, but something. I don't know. Can somebody tell me? 1.8 trillion, correct? 1.8 trillion, and this is 1.9 trillion. So she comes out, Seth Peterson, $75. Holy cow, Seth. YouTube and others need to become public utilities. They have way too much power to control over what information people receive, especially these bastards. Jordan, please never stop. Your work is super important and needed. I'm not going to stop. YouTube could try to stop us, but I'm not going to stop. Thank you, Seth, for Super Chat, the GoFundMe. We really appreciate it. So let me get something straight. In October, when there was a $1.8 trillion offer, when people were still starving, when people were still desperate, when people were having to choose between groceries and medicine for their children, when Amazon workers were having to still go into work and risk their lives for the production, and so Jeff Bezos could have 26 bathrooms in his mansion. When Trump offered $1.8 trillion, that was insufficient. But when Biden gets elected, $900 billion is suddenly wonderful. A $600 check, which is an insult to the starving masses, is a down payment. And now $1.9 trillion is suddenly reasonable and exciting. Do you understand how this works? She got basically this offer. This offer is a little bit better than what she was being offered from Trump and Mnuchin. She got the same offer before the election and didn't take it because she's a filthy politician who is more interested in power for her party and donors, by the way, than actually helping starving, desperate people. Trump absolutely screwed up during this pandemic and did not meet the moment of leadership. But Trump's gone, so I'm not interested in discussing what he failed to do and didn't do. This greedy politician, this out-of-touch politician with a whole freezer of gourmet ice cream, thinks you're so stupid and is insulting your intelligence so much to, in October, tell you, how dare you, Wolf Blitzer, even ask me why I'm not taking this offer. To when her guy gets in, well, $900 billion is a down payment, and we're giving help to the American people. Oh, you're bleeding with an economic gunshot wound? Here's $600. And now this is the reasonable position, $1.9 trillion. That's not even gaslighting. That is literally playing with your lives to ensure the current president, Donald Trump, wasn't going to get a political victory before the election. That's what she did. If she would have agreed to it, Trump and Mnuchin would have muscled the Republican Party to agree to it, and people would have gotten help much sooner. Not the help we needed. Frankly, we need a $4 to $5 trillion bill. 1.9 is insufficient compared to the problem. But people would have gotten help sooner. And this is what Nancy Pelosi, Wolf Blitzer, decided to be a journalist just for one day. This is what Nancy Pelosi had to say when Wolf Blitzer had the gall to challenge her on why can't you just take this $1.8 trillion?
They can't pay the rent. Many Americans are waiting in food lines for the first time in their lives. Can you look them in the eye, Madam Speaker, and explain why you don't want to accept the president's latest stimulus offer?
Well, because, thank you very much, Wolf, and I hope you'll ask the same question of the Republicans about why they don't really want to meet the needs of the American people. But let me say to those people, because all of my colleagues, we represent these people. I have for over 30 years represented my constituents. I know what their needs are. I listen to them, and their needs are not addressed in the president's proposal. So when you say to me, why don't you accept theirs? Why don't they accept ours? Our legislation is there to do three things primarily: to honor our workers, honor our heroes, our healthcare workers, our police and fire first responders, our teachers, our transportation, sanitation, food workers, the people who make our lives work. We couldn't be doing what we're doing without them. Many of them have risked their lives so that to save lives, and now they will lose their jobs because Mitch McConnell says let the states go bankrupt.
Excuse me for interrupting,
let the states go bankrupt.
Madam Speaker, but they really need the money right now, and even members of your own.
I understand that, but
but even members of your own caucus. even members of your own caucus, Madam Speaker, want to accept this deal. $1.8 trillion. Congressman Ro Khanna, for example. But let me just quote Ro Khanna, a man you know well. I assume you admire him. He's a Democrat. And he just said this. He said, people in need can't wait until February. $1.8 trillion is significant and more than twice the Obama stimulus. Make a deal. Put the ball in McConnell court. So what do you say to Ro Khanna?
What I say to you is, I don't know why you're always an apologist, and many of your colleagues apologists for the Republican position. Ro Khanna, that's nice. That isn't what we're going to do, and nobody's waiting till February. I want this very much now, because people need help now. But it's no use giving them a false thing just because the president.
So, to be clear, not to mention the, the wink wink, I don't give a fuck about Ro Khanna. She said nobody's waiting till February. Nobody's waiting till February. What's today? February 4th? Did you get your checks? Not the $600 checks. Have you gotten your recurring unemployment that would actually help you live? Have the states and the cities gotten the money that she said was inadequate in October? Nobody's waiting till February. And by the way, Biden's press secretary, who you got to give it to her, she's no Kayleigh McEnany. This Jen Psaki, very competent, very slick. She's a very good professional liar. Very, very good professional liar. She started in the Obama administration. She's no Kayleigh McEnany. Pelosi lied to the people. She wasn't not taking that deal because it was inadequate. And I don't even think $1.8 trillion offered by Trump was enough. No. But even a child could understand $1.8 trillion in October better than $900 billion in December. And by the way, based on what we're seeing from Joe Biden, if anybody believes they've backtracked on the checks, they were going to be $2,000. Now they're $1,400. Oh, wait, we're not going to actually give it to everybody. It's going to be, we got to means test it. So now we're only going to give it to people making $50,000 or less. Even if the people that, according to their 2019 tax returns, make more than $50,000, they might be out of work now. But since we're looking at the 2019 tax returns, we're not going to give them any money, which is going to eliminate a huge amount of people. And by the way, keep signing up, statuscoup.com/join. We're up to 1,823. I will not stop asking you because we need to grow, and we need to grow our membership quickly based on what YouTube is doing. I'm under the assumption, and we have to work under the assumption that at some point we will be demonetized. So we need to grow our small dollar membership quickly, because if YouTube demonetizes us, that's about 30-40% of our revenue right there. Some months, 50 to 60% of our revenue. So please, if you got a couple bucks, $5 a month, statuscoup.com/join. You get to join our Discord as a member. We have monthly members calls. You get stuff for your membership in addition to supporting us. statuscoup.com/join. But what's laughable, based on Biden already backtracking on the $2,000 checks, then backtracking on who we're going to give the $1,400 checks to. They're also backtracking. They ditched the $600 a week unemployment, which the Huffington Post just wrote about. Now that Republicans are less of an obstacle, Democrats are negotiating with themselves. What else is new? Democrats have given up on giving unemployed workers an extra $600 a week in unemployment benefits. Instead, the party seems to be coalescing around President Biden's proposal to add $400 a week. The measure is part of a $1.9 trillion proposal for a pandemic recovery bill that included a host of other Democratic priorities. And suddenly, Biden, who on the campaign trail, one of the consistents was $15 minimum wage. I've heard his economic speeches as of recently. I don't hear the $15 minimum wage, which, by the way, would be phased in over 5 years. You wouldn't even get to the $15 till 2025. I'm not hearing it in these economic speeches. Wonder why? Maybe because his donors don't want $15 minimum wage? Could that be it? So anyone with eyes knows at this point, based on what we've been seeing from Biden, Pelosi, Schumer, do you actually think it's even going to be $1.9 trillion? Biden seems, obsessed with pretending we're living in 1981. He wants to, bring back the good old days of Democrats and Republicans working together to screw you. Working together to give you NAFTA, working together to give you the crime bill, working together to give you welfare reform, working together to repeal Glass-Steagall, working together for the Patriot Act, and on we go. Bipartisan compromise to screw you and your loved ones. You're not getting $1.9 trillion the way this president is acting. And for what reason? You have complete control. You can do things through budget reconciliation. They, so far, have began the process of budget reconciliation to push this $1.9 trillion, but they haven't even committed to actually, no, we're not moving off of $1.9 trillion. And by the way, I hate to tell you, and I know that there's people going to say, well, Jordan, it's better than nothing. We have to get out of this it's better than nothing prism, this better than nothing dynamic. Because we're always going to be thinking it's better than nothing if we just swallow the crumbs they give us. $1.9 trillion in the wealthiest country on earth who prints money is not enough relief money when you look at the proportion of the crisis. You have between 16 and 20 million workers on unemployment right now. The poverty level has gone up by 10 million people. 10 million more people have fallen into poverty. So $400 a week and a $1,400 one-time check that, by the way, you're going to owe taxes on? Let me ask you, if your bills have been accumulating for over a year, will $1,400 plus 400, 800, 1,200, 400, 800, 1,200, 1,600, plus $1,600 a month on unemployment, is that going to cover it? Is $1,600 a month plus a $1,400 check going to cover it for you? By the way, we're not even talking about the fact there is a ticking time bomb. There is going to be a mass eviction calamity. They're just continually moving the deadline and expanding the moratorium for evictions. They're doing nothing to forgive the rent, to cancel the rent. So what's going to happen at the end of March? Or let's say they move it, the deadline for evictions, to the end of July, maybe the end of the year as coronavirus still wages. What's going to happen when they lift the moratorium? Do you have $20,000 to $30,000 in back pay of rent to pay with your $14 check and $400 a week of unemployment? I'm seriously asking you. Tell me in the chat. Well, $1,400, if you're lucky enough to get it, $400 a week, is that going to cover your medical debt? Is that going to cover, if at this point we're talking $10,000 to $20,000 in back pay of rent? Your mortgage back pay, if you're behind on your mortgages, your car bills, student loans. Oh, now Biden, they might get rid of $50,000 of student loan debt by executive action. But Jordan, it's better than nothing. Yeah, go take a little survey of the average student loan debt. It's higher than $50,000. And today, Jen Psaki says Biden wants to cancel $10,000 through Congress. $10,000 for people who have hundreds of thousands of dollars in debt? We're not just talking about working class people, doctors who have massive student loan debt. This is absurd. And I'm not about it's better than nothing. Yeah. You know people who say it's better than nothing? People who aren't facing eviction. People who don't have to ration insulin. People who aren't choosing whether to get enough groceries or give their kids medicine. But the resistance, no, these aren't the top concerns right now. You know what the top concern is? Marjorie Greene Taylor, the QAnon congresswoman, who CNN, MSNBC, all these outlets, we got to do it 24/7 now. It's all they're covering. The grave threat of Marjorie Greene Taylor, so that they could distract away from the fact that Joe Biden, the Democratic Party, is providing you a Band-Aid for an economic fucking tsunami. Excuse my French. I know by the way, my father calls me at least once a week. He's distraught that I curse. He says gutter language should be put in the gutter. And he says, I'm hurting my company by cursing. I say, Dad, I love you, but we're not, in the 1950s anymore. And I do me. I don't curse out of a shtick. It's just, it is what it is. Sometimes I have to express myself a little differently than you would like. Is Marjorie Greene Taylor a nut? Absolutely. By the way, welcome new Status Coup member Rick. Just signed up. Woo-hoo! We're now at 1,824. 1,824 Status Coup members. Keep signing up. Maybe we can get 2 more so we can get to 10 new members while I'm live. StatusCout.com/join. Is Marjorie Greene Taylor a nut? Absolutely. Should she be removed from committees for saying 9/11 isn't real? Parkland was a false flag. QAnon is real. I know she's suddenly backtracking on these things. Yeah, remove her from committees. Do we need to hear about this 24/7 on CNN? No. Enough. This is the new Russiagate. We got to cover Russia 24/7 so we don't have to cover why did Hillary Clinton lose to a game show host. Maybe I'll put my dad on speaker one day when he criticizes me for cursing. By the way, I want to show you. The world is upside down now because apparently it's Fox News is the only outlet willing to cover YouTube's censorship machete. Forbes, thank you, covered it last night. I spoke with a Forbes reporter. They did this story. YouTube is taking down raw footage from the Capitol riot as it tries to crack down on misinformation. I'll put that in the super chat. They quoted me. I told them to call John. I don't know if they did. John Farina. Let me find the Fox News story that just quoted me, and Matt Taibbi, who's been supporting independent channels that have been wrongly demonetized. Here you go. YouTube's dangerous crackdown on independent journalists. It defies all logic and reason. It is difficult for an independent journalist to remain afloat in a field dominated by large corporations with hundreds of staffers and deep bank accounts. They often rely on social media platforms to promote their work and gain exposure. Video journalist Ford Fisher documents political events, particularly protests and rallies, shares them on his various platforms, and frequently licenses his footage to major news outlets. Quote, I sometimes jokingly say that it's the C-SPAN of political activism. Fisher says of his media outlet News to Share, which he co-founded in 2014, a national D.C. local, a Washington, D.C. local. Fisher found himself amid a sea of Trump supporters on January 6th at the National Mall, capturing their reaction to a giant screen that displayed then-President Trump's fiery speech ahead of Capitol Hill riot. Fisher, who identifies as nonpartisan, shared the raw footage on his platforms. Like the vast majority of his videos, the footage was not edited and provided no commentary. In fact, BBC licensed the video for a docuseries. However, on January 24th, the day before the House of Representatives delivered its articles of impeachment against Trump to the Senate, YouTube removed the video for allegedly violating its terms of service. Quote, We wanted to let you know our team reviewed your content and we think it violates our spam, deceptive practices, and scam policy, YouTube wrote in an email to Fisher. We realize this may be disappointing news, but it's our job to make sure that YouTube is a safe place for all. Oh, here we go with the safe spaces. The email, which Fisher published on Twitter the next day, then cited a policy stating content that advances false claims that widespread fraud, errors, or glitches changed the outcome of the U.S. presidential election is not allowed on YouTube. So here's Ford's thread saying this is absurd. After Fisher drew attention to YouTube's action, the Google-owned video giant doubled down. This video was removed because it didn't include countervailing views or sufficient context of the claims made in the footage. Team YouTube responded. As videos can be embedded across the web, we only allow this content to remain on the platform if there's appropriate context within the video. So let me get this straight, folks. Let me get this straight. While Ford Fisher and John Farina, who was shooting the same exact footage for us that got taken down too, while they are literally in the midst of a mob storming the Capitol with who God knows if guns are going to be shot at any moment, with tear gas being dispatched, with people being pummeled to the ground, a literal riot. To be safe, to be on YouTube's platform, they need to pause. They need to leave the protest that they're covering live at risk to their health. There's a pandemic. Half these people 75% of these people not wearing masks. They need to leave the rally and they need to find countervailing views to come to the rally so that there's enough countervailing views or the appropriate context to the mob, that they're not advancing what the mob thinks, they're covering it. Do you understand how batshit absurd and intentionally disingenuous that is? That news reporters, videographers who are literally covering a real-time attempt at overturning the government with assassination threats to elected officials, even officials you might not like, should not be assassinated, that footage will not remain up unless you somehow parachute in that professor, that countervailing view to plop into the riot to say, in fact, Joe Biden did win the election. Here's the countervailing view. Who the hell made Google the global editor that gets to decide if there's enough context or a topic is safe enough? What is this? Are you kidding? The article went on to say, if you see similar footage on the platform, it's likely because it includes countervailing views or sufficient context as opposed to just the raw footage itself, the statement added. Fisher immediately pushed back, pointing out that the video, which you can still be seen on Odyssey, provided context with its title, Crowd Reacts to Trump January 6th Speech Ahead of Capitol Insurgency, and cited several networks whose live streams of Trump's Save America rally remained active on YouTube. On Wednesday, YouTube escalated its actions by demonetizing his entire channel, citing harmful content, despite approving the video for monetization on January 8th. Demonetization is the common term for stripping a content creator of the ability to make money from ads provided by, in this case, YouTube. Quote, honestly, it defies all logic and reason why they would behave like this. Whatever their reasoning is, there's an obvious discrimination against independent content creators, Fisher told Fox News. I really can't rationally think of any difference between the videos other than simply who posted them. This isn't the first time Fisher's channel was demonetized. In 2019, his account was one of hundreds that were either demonetized or deleted. 7 months later, YouTube admitted they made a mistake, according to Fisher. The channel's absence from YouTube cost Fisher thousands of dollars, income which he told Fox News largely pays for hired freelancers and his own travel expenses. Quote, "It is not unlikely that they will make the same decision again this time, but I really hope that it doesn't take 7 months of not having YouTube income until that happens. I think they extremely obviously made a mistake. I don't think there's any rational argument they could have to defend it. I just hope they resolve it quickly." YouTube isn't the only tech giant that has given Fisher headaches. Following the November election, Facebook suspended his ability to post on his page. Back in September, Facebook removed his entire account. Fisher did, however, appreciate that Facebook quickly resolved the issue and reached out with an actual human being to apologize. Fisher also told Fox News that he's been shadow banned on Twitter following his coverage of the Capitol insurrection. By the way, if you search @JordanChariton, good luck finding me. Not only does his profile not appear in search results, a warning appears for those who aren't logged in and an attempt to view the page that reads, "Caution, the profile may include potentially sensitive content." In addition, every tweet that includes media has, quote, "a potentially sensitive content" label attached to it. Twitter did not immediately respond to Fox's request for comment. Despite the problems Fisher has had with other tech giants, YouTube continues to be his biggest obstacle. Quote, "YouTube used to be for independent content creators primarily, right? It used to be about democratizing everybody has a voice. Like, that was the idea of YouTube. That's what I love about YouTube. That's why I like it still, at least for that principle," Fisher said. It seems like YouTube has basically started to just be a platform for the corporations that you could watch on cable TV anyway. Bingo! And as they've been doing that, they have acknowledged that they're squeezing down the amount of viewership that goes to independent content creators. Quote, "The way they would describe it is they are shifting viewership towards reputable sources." And that's their way of saying, we're giving priority to mainstream media when you search for stuff. But I think that the fact that major news outlets can live stream the same things that I filmed and mine gets deleted and theirs gets ads put on it, well, I think it indicates to me YouTube is serving corporations rather than small business and individual users. Fisher is alluding to Project Owl, launched by YouTube's parent company, Google, in 2017. Project Owl modified algorithms to amplify what it describes as reliable sources or authoritative pages and rank them higher in search results in order to combat the spread of misinformation. By the way, one of those authoritative pages was CNN and Fox News. Yes, Fox News. Matt Taibbi, an independent journalist who advocated on Fisher's behalf on Twitter, tells Fox News what YouTube is doing now is more drastic by making even raw footage from independent outlets off limits or taboo, even if the same footage was used by other mainstream outlets. Quote, "The clear goal is to disempower alternative media," Taibbi said. "The end game here is to force all content to be sifted through the filter of larger outlets." Taibbi, who has launched his own newsletter on the subscription-based platform Substack, argues that America is moving away from a free press to a journalistic licensing system operated by big tech, and that you could only do the job if you're part of the larger structure. Their goal is to make the press part of the political establishment rather than a check on it. So well put. Fisher is one of several independent journalists who have been punished in some form or another by YouTube. The left-leaning outlet, the Convo Couch, was similarly demonetized for harmful content. When pressed by co-founder Jonathan Mayorga to reveal which videos specifically violated the platform's policies, Team YouTube replied, "We can't share which specific videos were harmful." Listen, everybody knows my thoughts on that channel, but that's absurd. That's like, charging somebody with a crime, but yeah, we'll tell you the charges after you're in jail for 5 years. We're not going to tell you which videos were harmful? Are you kidding me? And I don't even like that channel. YouTube expects us to take a guess at which one of our over 1,000 videos violated their policy, Mayorkas tells Fox News. YouTube expects us to censor ourselves while we strongly believe that none of our videos violate their harmful content policy. They are purposely being ambiguous about what exact content violates their policy. The intricacies of how content is regulated is to be discussed and debated, but we hold that free speech is free speech unless it incites violence. Mayorkas and Convo Couch co-hosts Fiorella Isabel and Craig Pasta Jardula add, talking about election fraud is not inciting violence. Filming history on January 6th is not inciting violence. Filming with or without commentary of armed conflict is not inciting violence. Convo Couch host tells Fox News they are considering litigation in response to YouTube's actions. While much of the discussion of online censorship has dominated right-wing politics, conservatives aren't the only ones feeling the wrath of big tech. The progressive media outlet Status Coup has clashed with YouTube in recent weeks. YouTube had removed a live stream of a peaceful gun rights rally that took place on January 18th, but the video was restored after Status Coup co-founder Jordan Chariton vocally protested the decision on Twitter. On Tuesday, YouTube removed Status Quo's live stream of the Capitol Hill riot, alleging the footage is advancing claims of election fraud. The footage, which was captured by Status Quo cameraman John Farina, was licensed by several organizations, including CNN, MSNBC, NBC, CBS, ABC, The New York Times, Washington Post, and the Associated Press. Then they have my tweet where I tell YouTube, now you've taken down our footage, John's footage of historic footage from the Capitol attack, claiming it's spam or advances false claims of widespread frauds. Are you kidding? Chariton called YouTube's actions alarming and dangerous and is urging mainstream media outlets to condemn the onslaught of censorship against leftist channels. I ain't holding my breath, folks. Quote, it's part of a broader trend by Google, YouTube, to purge their platform of independent and progressive channels their advertisers don't view favorably. They are doing it under the guise of removing extremist right-wing content, Chariton told Fox News. It's puzzling to see our historic footage that has been used by dozens of domestic and foreign media networks removed when we were covering the events, not advocating or advancing false claims of election fraud. It is corporate censorship by YouTube and other platforms to appease corporate advertisers. Status Quo, knock on wood, has not been demonetized by YouTube, at least for now. However, other left-wing channels have been demonetized, like the Progressive Soapbox. We're going to have Jamal on tomorrow. Political Vigilante by Graham Elwood, and Frank Analysis, whose host is alleging that the money that his audience donated to his show through YouTube's Super Chat feature was not only blocked from reaching him, but was never refunded to donors. When asked about potential solutions to social media censorship, News shares Fisher expressed skepticism that government is the answer. Instead, he believes enough people need to speak up so YouTube and other platforms don't feel that it's going to damage their business if they demonetize them. In a direct appeal to YouTube, Fisher told Fox News that he wished an actual human being would speak to him before taking such drastic actions. Quote, what I would like to say is YouTube is just to come talk to people before taking away someone's entire livelihood. Before taking down content, they should actually reach out to the content creator and say, hey, we have some concerns about your channel. It's deeply hurtful to me that they just send an automated form letter and say, oh, that part of your livelihood is gone. It's gone. Good luck, and make it hard to speak to a human there. A spokesperson for Google, YouTube's parent company, told Fox News, we will take a look. We will take a look in response to several inquiries about YouTube's recent actions against these independent journalists. Yeah, folks, let me tell you something. YouTube's going to take a look as they're wiping their ass with your complaints. Yeah, they're not taking a look. They're taking a look at how much they're making from their corporate advertisers. That's what they'll take a look at. This is 1984. This is 1984. That's what it is. And they need to take a look to thousands of people protesting It ain't just censorship. This is technocratic fascism. Fascism has a lot of different shades. I'm not comparing this to Germany in the 1930s and 40s, but there are different forms of fascism, and this is corporate technocratic fascism. Precursors, Google it, precursors to fascism are censorship. Do I think that anybody should be able to say whatever the hell they want on YouTube? No, I do not. I think if you are a host, whether you have 5 subscribers or 5 million, you have a responsibility, to the best of your ability, to be responsible. You can't tell people, hey, go to the Capitol, fight. If, to me, that's clearly revving up people to incite violence. Those channels should be held accountable. I don't think they should be deplatformed right away, but I agree with Ford. How about a little dialogue before taking your big claw and strangling people's living? My dad just called, probably about me cursing. Love you, Dad. So it's just unbelievable. And by the way, what YouTube is doing is actually going to increase extremism. What Google, what Facebook, what all these platforms are doing under the guise of, shrinking extremism, they are increasing extremism because you are giving... I'm live right now, Father.
Yeah, I have to tell you something about what you're live about.
Go ahead.
You know this guy who is the founder of Google?
Oh, here we go with your right-wing nonsense. Go ahead.
Do you know who is the founder of Google?
Google? Who is that? I know the founder of Apple.
Sergey Brin.
Yeah?
Do you know where he came from?
No.
He came from Russia. Do you know
Oh, God.
who fought to get him out of Russia?
Who?
Me. And many, many people who demonstrated because while he lived in Russia, they had no human rights. And now he's come to the United States, and he's denying people human rights.
I agree. We're in agreement.
That's right. That's why I wanted you to be able to say that on live, that this guy has embraced the American luxury life, but he's forgotten the life that he lived in Russia. And Americans fought to get him out of Russia. Americans fought to give him rights.
That's right. And is this your audition? Because I know you've been saying you want to have a show with me for a while.
This isn't an audition. He's worried about what happened in the Congress on January 6th. He should worry about what's going to happen in his Google office because he's denying people their right to free speech.
I agree.
I have a lot of activist friends who I can call to defend human rights, especially of my dynamic son.
Right on. This is one of the few intelligent things I've heard from you in a very long time. I like it.
Well,
now we just got to get you on the Bernie train.
Listen. All I am telling you is that I am very angry at this guy, Sergey Brin, who is the founder of Google and has forgotten where he came from.
I agree. And by the way, what I'm saying, by denying us our rights of free speech, they are actually going to expand and increase extremism because people are going to say, we need to fight back. We need to fight back against this big tech censorship.
We don't need to fight back. Jordan, they don't have to fight back. We're just going to take over their office, and we're going to show them what free.
Okay, Dad. Now you're going to get me demonetized by calling to take over Google's office. I'm not advocating to take over Google's office, just to be clear.
No, you shouldn't advocate it because you're not my son. I'm advocating it because when you attacked my family, you're attacking me. And that was the wrong move for this Sergey guy from Russia.
Okay.
When he wanted to get Russia out of Russia, we were demonstrating on the streets of New York City.
Larry, I'll call you after, and the audience is loving this, so we'll have to do it again soon.
All I know is they better stop messing with my son Jordan.
Thank you. Love you.
Love you too.
Bye-bye. So that's Larry Sheridan. He's a right-winger, but I love him. Big Zionist, too, just to tell you. But he did make some good points. By the way, to be clear, we are not advocating to take over Google's office. Just want to say. So YouTube, I'm adding the context, the countervailing views that you speak of. We're not advocating for that. Nobody take over anybody's office, no violence, all those good things. But that was Larry Sheridan. He has been pushing me for quite a while to do a show together. And I told him, Larry, I'm telling you, once my audience knows your views on Israel, that's going to be the end of that. They're not going to want to hear from you. So if you want to do a show, we could do a show, but it's not going to be great for you. They might ask me to disown you. And, you know, he loves Trump. He's very, very big on going after Hunter Biden, which, frankly, I think we should go after Hunter Biden. I think Hunter Biden, Biden's brother Jim Biden, are corrupt as sin, and the media is covering up for it. Adding the context that your dad is a bit off. I wouldn't say he's a bit off. I would say he's a colorful person. He has colorful views, I would say. But maybe we'll have a Family Feud episode or two here. Why not? All right, folks. That just went completely off the walls. Let me check. Do we have any more member signups before I go? Oh, would you look at that? Marjorie Taylor has been removed from all committees over appalling conspiracy mongering. So the world is healed. The country is healed. Marjorie Taylor has been stripped of her committee assignments. So what is CNN and MSNBC going to cover now, since she's been stripped of her committee assignments? Are they going to actually cover the fact that people are starving in this country? Can they make some time for that? The fact that $1.9 trillion is a slap in the face during an economic depression? Cover the fact that there is a 1984 dystopian censorship purge going on here? Can they make time to cover? Can Brian Stelter, Mr. Reliable Sources on CNN, make time to cover the literally purging of information that we don't want? You know who purged information that they didn't want? Hitler, Mussolini, Stalin, Chinese. It's ridiculous. All right, folks, it's dinner time. I also am still working on a major investigative story with Jen. That's why I've been off the air for a couple days. I've been working night and day on this story. I don't know. I'm kind of jaded at this point because, honestly, it seems that no matter how many times you break massive stories on corruption, criminal cover-ups, that the media won't pick it up. But I'm going to keep investigating, and I'm going to keep breaking those stories. I think the story we're working on right now, frankly, if this story doesn't become a major thing, then I don't know what ever would. It is a follow-up on Flint. It is revealing more information on the Flint water cover-up. I will say that we do have some information about, I don't want to get myself in trouble, about destruction of evidence and a whole lot of other things. So don't think that I'm just laying in bed drinking a margarita if you don't see me live. We're working hard. And I've also been balancing reporting on Amazon that we recently broke. So please, please, please support us any way you can. Just sell out. You'll make more money. I know. Wouldn't that be nice? No, we're not going to sell out. Please, 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 if you can, sign up, statuscoup.com/join. Help us. We're getting closer and closer every day to 2,000 members. Honestly, the way things are going, we don't know how much longer we'll be able to make money on YouTube. We don't know how much longer we'll go without being demonetized. We're hoping we're not, but seeing the way things are going, it doesn't look good for us as far as monetization. So please, if you can, obviously if it's not in your budget right now, it's totally okay. If you can, you could join us for as low as $5 a month. That's 16 cents a day. Thank you for watching. Thank you to the members who just signed up, to the GoFundMe donors, to the Super Chat donors. I will see you tomorrow. Peace out.